Hello, this is Jessica Fox from Florida Virtual Bookkeeper, and today I want to talk to you about how you can save time in your practice by leveraging the benefits of automation. Why bother with automation? It helps you increase your efficiency. It saves you time. That way you can have more time in the day available to serve more clients or to work less hours and spend time with your family or do activities that you enjoy that you may be too busy for right now. The tedious stuff that you know has to get done but you don't really enjoy doing can get done automatically. You can also have more focus in your day because you're not getting distracted by having to stop and do quick admin tasks that need to be done throughout the day. And the differences and improvements that automation gives you have an impact that lasts over time. So automation comes in many forms. There can be built-in automation features in some of the apps that you already use. For example, if you use QuickBooks Online and send invoices that have QuickBooks payments turned on, when the client pays the invoice, it automatically marks the invoice paid for you. It processes the deposit to your register, so there's nothing that you need to do extra for that. If you use email service like Gmail, it has some built-in automation features, like you can create filters, so that way when emails come in that match certain criteria, they can be marked as important or applied a label to them or be automatically moved to a folder or automatically sent to spam. And lots of apps nowadays offer various automation features built in. Now, there's also external apps that can help you do automation on its own. For example, I use 17 Hats, as if you've seen any of my other videos before, you're aware of, and it allows me to automate a lot of the administrative processes in my practice. Now, there are also built-in integration apps between two separate apps. They are completely different companies, completely different programs, but they've decided to work together. An example for this would be Calendly and Zoom. Calendly is a scheduling app, and it does have a feature that if you turn it on, it can automatically create a Zoom meeting for you. Or you can integrate Zoom and Google so that when you create a Zoom meeting, it will enter it in your Google Calendar. And when you are in your Google Calendar and it's time for the meeting, you can just click on the event and it takes you to the Zoom meeting. There are also DIY custom integrations between apps. These are done through services such as Zapier or IFTTT, that stands for if then this that. And what they allow to do is that you do not need to know programming, you do not need to be an engineer or rocket scientist to create your own integrations. Then there are also advanced custom integrations via APIs. This is the advanced stuff. If you're really geeky and you have the time and the interest to learn code, it can be lots of fun. But let's face it, most of us are in accounting for other reasons. We have things to do. So those tend to be something that tends to be delegated to the experts, and it can be expensive to build. So it's not something that I'm really going to be focusing on today. Now, the basics of automation. In order for you to understand automation, you need to think in terms of if statements. If this, then that. You identify the trigger, that's the this, and then what the action is. That's what happens if this happens. So how does that look like? In Zapier, you will first select when this happens, and you would select an app. Zapier supports 1,500 apps, so there's lots of choices. You will tell it, in this app, when this happens, do this. And it can be something in a different app that app number one cannot handle. So some things to remember about automation is that you want to document your processes so that you can identify the best opportunities for automations. Between hundreds of bookkeepers, there's 100 different ways that we can automate. The things that my automations that are most valuable to me may not be the most helpful for you. So that's why it's important that you can understand what your process is so that you can identify where the most room for improvement is. And I advise you to not try to automate everything at once. Rome wasn't built in the day. Every little bit that you do will have a lasting impact in your practice. So remember, small changes, huge impacts. Every increase in productivity will give you a return in terms of increased productivity and time savings. So some automation examples include, say, your scheduling app checks your calendar availability and enters the appointment in your calendar when a client schedules the appointment. That was one of the very first few things I automated years ago, and I do not, under any circumstances, want to go back to the old manual way of having somebody contacting me via email saying, when can we meet? And me replying back with a time, and then replying back saying that doesn't work for me. How about this other day? That back and forth, I don't want it back. Another option is when a prospect fills out a contact form in your website, it can send an automated reply with a scheduling link. That way, it doesn't matter if you're on vacation, somebody goes to your website and clicks on contact us, they'll automatically get an email saying, thank you for your interest. I look forward to talking with you about your bookkeeping needs. Click here to select the date and time that works best for you. You can still be sipping margaritas on the beachside, and the automation will take care of that for you. And another one that I use for myself is when a prospect schedules a discovery call, it automatically adds them as a contact and under the prospect category in my CRM. That way I don't have to remember to manually enter them. When a prospect signs an agreement, he can automatically send an onboarding email. That way they already get the next steps to get them onboarded. When an email comes in that meets a specific filter, you can automatically put it in a set folder. You can say, if you have a blog on your website, when you post a blog post, it can automatically have it shared in social media without you having to do anything else. And the possibilities are endless. There's so many different things that can be automated that it can be a little bit mind-blowing. So just focus on the basics, little by little. Every little bit adds up. So how do you get started? You want to evaluate your current app stack. Look at the apps that you're using right now. Are they serving your needs? Are you maximizing what they can do? Do you even understand how to use them? There is not a whole lot of benefit in signing up and paying for apps if you're not taking any benefits from them. There needs to be value even if the app is free. Then I identify, what are your time wasters? What administrative tasks take you away from revenue generating work? Is it having to, be saving files that you get via email as attachments and you need to save them into your cloud drive? Like in my case, it was this back and forth with prospects to set up a meeting, or sending the automated emails for onboarding before I had to send that manually. Identify what is those bottlenecks for you. So what are the pain points? If something feels tedious or feels inefficient, write it down, make a list, and think, do your current apps address that? Do they help with that problem or not at all? And if they don't, could they? Sometimes we're using apps and we just haven't taken advantage of the full functionality. And then look at current integrations that are available for your apps. Maybe that app doesn't do it on its own, but it can connect to another app that will fill that gap. If your apps are not meeting your needs, if there is a pain point that is not being addressed, then it may be time to research new apps that can address that. Once you've made that list of pain points, of time wasters, of room for improvement items, evaluate and pick one thing to automate. Now, if your apps can do it on their own, see if they are Zapier compatible. Like I said, Zapier currently works with 1,500 apps, so chances are your app is not supported, but there are some accounting apps that are not yet Zapier friendly. But if they are, sign up for Zapier. It can save you a lot of time and hassle. So, choosing your first app, ask, is this the best use of my time? When you are thinking about the different tasks that you do, make a list of opportunities like I mentioned, and just to avoid getting overwhelmed, just pick one thing and focus on that. And then you need to map out what the workflow is going to be. What is your trigger? and what is the action from it. It helps to sketch this out in advance. And then start with a simple SAP. Don't get too ambitious on your first try because there is a learning curve. Start with something simple, one step. Once you get the hang of it, then you're free to get as fancy as you want. And then once you know what you want, if you are not sure that you have the time or desire to set it up on your own, there are experts available that can set it up for you. I am a big DIYer. I set up most of my SAPs, but some of them, my ideas are too big. I don't have the time to figure out the execution. I will sometimes outsource it from time to time. So, how do you create your first SAP? Once you sign up for an account at Zapier.com, there's a free account. You have a 14-day trial, I believe, for the premium features, so you can test drive it, see if it's right for you. There's this big orange make a SAP button. Just click that and the system will walk you through the steps. Then you give it a name. This part is actually optional. You can continue without giving it a name. Zapier will kind of like autofill it based on the information that you set up later on. I like giving it a name because I need my names to be descriptive so that when I go back later on, I'll know what I was trying to create. Then you want to choose your trigger. In this example, my trigger is whenever I receive a new attachment in Gmail. And this is just a little screenshot of what it would look like on the Zapier website when you're setting it up. Then you want to test the data. This is optional. You do have the option to skip the test, but it's always a good idea to test it so that your Zap will be working right out of the gate, and you don't have to troubleshoot it later when you realize, wait, why isn't it working? So if you are setting up something like in this particular case, the Zap is looking for an attachment in Gmail, make sure you have an email in your Gmail with an attachment in it. Most of us do if we've had the account for a while, but this is something to keep in mind if you're setting a Zap in a new app that you haven't entered any data yet. It helps to create at least a sample so that you can test it and make sure it's working properly before you let it go on its own. Then identify the option. I get an email with an attachment. What do I want it to do? Well, in this particular case, I chose to have the file uploaded to my Google Drive. You can choose whatever you want it to do. Then there are customizations that you can do. You can select what drive, what folder, what the file is. Do I want to convert it into a Google document? Do I want to change the file name? A lot of these features are optional, but it gives you a lot of flexibility. And then you test and go, because you want to test it to make sure that it works. You don't want to just turn it on and then wonder weeks down the line why nothing has been automated. And it's as simple as that. So I hope that this information has been helpful so far. Once you've gotten your first SAP implemented, then you can get fancy. There are advanced features available with Zapier that can give you some more functionality. For example, I have a Zap setup where when a contact is updated in my CRM, it will be created as a customer in QuickBooks Online. However, I don't want every single prospect created as a customer in QuickBooks Online. I only want my clients to be set up as customers. So I use a Zapier filter so that the Zap only runs if the contact type is client. If it is, it creates it in QuickBooks Online. If it's not, it stops. It doesn't do it for me. So there's a lot of advanced features that you can take advantage of once you get the hang of it to make your life even easier. So now I encourage you to take the next step, automate one thing. And there's a lot of free information on the internet if you want to learn more. This was obviously very introductory. There are lots of videos and blogs and tutorials on how to use Zapier. Their customer support, in my experience, has been very helpful. Oftentimes, the apps themselves that are Zapier enabled will have some tutorials on how to help do the automation, also on how to use the built-in automation that they may have. And there are courses available if you really want to dive in. If you're too busy or you choose that you do not want to dive in, it doesn't mean you have to skip on it. You can outsource it. So I hope that this information has given you just enough to want to automate at least one thing in your practice. Tell me in the comments, what did you choose to automate? How is it going? What do you plan to automate next? I look forward to seeing your answers. If you have any questions or comments, I am available via email, jessica@floridavirtualbookkeeper.com. Thank you and have a great day.